Hello. Today we've got an Italian one. I almost tried to say it, but I don't really know Italian. Well, let's try it. Il Castello dalle Porte di Fuoco. That translates to the castle with the fire doors, or the castle with the doors of fire. Okay? This is a very cool poster here. This movie is both Italian and Spanish. Spanish director, Italian cast. Was mainly released in Italy. The director was Jose Luis Marino, but I'm pretty sure all the actors, as you can see here, are Italian. Actually, Erna Schurer doesn't sound Italian, but I looked it up. She is Italian. Probably her father was German, maybe. So, on this poster, we've got a nice big pair of scissors. We've got a woman screaming and so on. We have a few alternate titles for this one. In America and England, it was released as Scream of the Demon Lover. And on this poster, we have this hand here and a face that's green, and a wolf or a dog and a woman seemingly being tortured. Okay. We've got this alternate name and poster, El Castillo de Frankenstein. That is the Spanish release. Okay. That's a nice poster. This poster actually gives you more of a vibe of what's going on than the other ones do. So let's go back to the original Italian poster. What's this movie about? This movie is about a woman who is a scientist. She's a chemist, and she's contracted to work in a castle on some science experiments. She gets there. The baron that lives there is surprised that she's a woman, and then he says, like, basically, leave, get out. And she, having worked hard to become a chemist, is offended and says, no, I'm not leaving. And he says, I'll give you a month's pay. Get out of here. She's like, no. And he's like, I'll give you 2 months' pay. She says, no, I'm staying, and I'm not going to take any money unless I do the chemistry work that you've hired me to do. So he reluctantly accepts. And at the same time, a lot of women in the area have been killed off. So we're wondering who did it. Is it the Baron? Is it somebody else? Is it something else? And that's basically the premise of the movie. I think it's a fairly nice premise. They definitely deal with issues of feminism, but especially in the beginning, they kind of drop it later. It turns into a kind of a love story. Unfortunately, they set it up to be pretty good, and then it kind of doesn't really. To me, I was kind of into it for like at least half the movie, maybe 2/3, but I was expecting that it was building up to something cool. There's a part in the middle of the movie where she's trying to sleep in her quarters, the room that she's allowed to sleep in the castle, and while she's sleeping, these hands that look like a demon's hands or something like that, like touch her while she's sleeping and grab her, and then all of a sudden she's chained to the bed, and then she wakes up. She doesn't know, her clothes are ripped off. She doesn't know if it's a dream or if it really happened. She kind of talks to the Baron. The Baron's kind of an asshole, but he denies it. She thinks it's him, so on and so forth. Anyway, it was pretty, the mystery aspect there was cool. But then, as it turns out, and here comes the spoiler, as it turns out, the Baron has a twin brother who was burned all over his body at some earlier time. And so he now is not a demon or a monster or a Frankenstein. He is just scarred from head to toe. I will say, I could only find this on YouTube, so the quality wasn't great, but I could tell that the makeup job on this burned brother was very good. This is one of the few times in 1970 movies that I've seen really good makeup effects. I'm trying to think if I've seen any others. Most of the movies in 1970 They're like vampire movies where the people may have fangs or they're, giallos where everyone's just a regular person, or there's been like killers. The Beast in the Cellar had very, very poor makeup. Off the top of my head, the only other 1970 movie that I've seen that has really good makeup job was Beast of Blood. At the time of me filming this, I'm not sure which one I'm going to release first because I just watched Beast of Blood also, but likely the Beast of Blood video will come after this one. So we'll talk more about that one later, most likely. But besides that one and this one, I haven't really seen much great makeup effects. Seen plenty of bad makeup effects. We had let's see, we had that one with Boris Karloff, the sculptor, and what was that one called? That one had mediocre makeup effects. Of course, that was actually filmed in 1967. Same thing with Flesh Feast. Didn't look very good, but it was filmed in 1967, and they're both low-budget movies. So was this one. Nothing giant or super exciting. It had a good premise. I couldn't tell if the acting was good or not because it was made with both Spanish and Italian crew, and just because Italian movies in general at the time, for the most part, were not actually filmed in Italian or released in Italian. As far as I know, this one was released only dubbed. It may have been one of those deals where some people were speaking Italian, some people speaking Spanish. I didn't look it up, but that's what a lot of them were back in these days, especially when there was multiple production companies and crews and cast members from different countries. So this one was Italy and Spain, The Castle with the Fire Door, also known as Scream of the Demon Lover. I'm kind of back and forth between a 5 and a 6 out of 10. I think that if I would have watched a better quality movie, I would have been even more impressed with the sets and the makeup effects on the burned guy, whose name was Igor. Igor was the burned guy. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 and be nice. It really could have been better if they would have had something a little more exciting at the end. But it just being a guy who's burned, I mean, he did kill these women or whatever, but you don't even actually see that on screen. So 6 out of 10 is being nice. All right, that's it for this one. See you next time.